She screamed so loud the cops thought someone was dying. I was on my porch with a cup of coffee when two police cruisers pulled up, sirens slicing through our quiet cul-de-sac. I blinked. In seconds, a woman's voice, shrill, frantic, cut through the morning air. "He stole it! That's a stolen Rolls-Royce. I saw him park it there." My hands froze mid-sip. A moment later, I was standing in my driveway, facing two uniformed officers and my neighbor, Linda. Her blouse was still tucked tight, hair sprayed like a helmet, phone in one hand, HOA binder in the other. Her fingers stabbed the air toward the car in front of my house, a silver Rolls-Royce Phantom, clean enough to reflect the clouds. "You live here?" one of the officers asked. "I do." "Can we see your ID?" I handed it over, calm. This wasn't the first time someone assumed I didn't belong. "Before I tell you what happened next, let me take you back 24 hours. If you've ever had a Karen for a neighbor, stick around and hit that like button so more people see what HOA power tripping really looks like. It all started the day my sister flew in from DC. She's a federal prosecutor, stays low-key, moves quiet, but she's also got taste, and her agency didn't mind her driving a confiscated Rolls-Royce for the week while investigating a case nearby. She joked it was evidence with leather seats. She pulled into my driveway around 6 p.m., wearing sunglasses and a gray blazer, and tossed me the keys like we were kids again. "I'm staying at the Marriott downtown. Just keep it here for me. It'll be safer." "Sure," I said. No big deal. I parked it carefully, halfway under the carport. A few kids biking down the street stopped to stare. The car shimmered in the sun like a silver spaceship. That was the first mistake. I should have known better. At 6:42 p.m., she showed up. "Linda." "Daniel." Her voice always had a forced smile in it, like sugar over broken glass. She stood on the sidewalk, arms crossed, gazing at the car. Her HOA badge, which she insisted on wearing like she was patrolling a federal zone, hung on a blue lanyard. "You expecting someone important?" I shrugged. "My sister's visiting. Just parked her car here for the week." Linda's eyes narrowed. She stepped closer, heels clicking. "I don't mean to be intrusive, but this doesn't exactly align with our community standards. Vehicles like this, they attract the wrong kind of attention." I blinked. "Like what kind of attention?" "Well," she gestured vaguely, "the flashy kind. This is a peaceful, family-oriented neighborhood, not Beverly Hills." I let the silence stretch. Then she leaned in a bit more. "And of course, if that vehicle isn't legally registered, we'd need to address that through the proper HOA channels." I smiled. "Appreciate the concern, Linda. It's legal. It's temporary." I walked back up my steps, leaving her standing there, still watching. The sun was setting, and her reflection in the Rolls-Royce window looked oddly distorted. That night, someone left a note under my door. "Not the kind of car we want in this neighborhood. Be smart. Move it." Typed, anonymous. I laughed. Someone had too much time and too little purpose. By morning, I noticed something weirder. 3 separate neighbors slowed their walks in front of my house. One took a photo. Another walked her dog twice around the block, never looking me in the eye. This was a neighborhood of lawnmowers, flagpoles, and quiet paranoia. I was used to it, but the tension was new. Then at 10:06 a.m., Linda made her move. She walked up the street, phone glued to her face, staring directly at my driveway. At 10:08, I heard her raise her voice. "Yes, Rolls-Royce. Looks abandoned. Possibly stolen. Yes, I'm the HOA president. I'm just doing my duty." That's when the cops arrived, and you already know what happened next. I stood beside the car, police scanning my ID, asking questions, looking increasingly annoyed. Linda circled, arms flailing. "This doesn't belong here. I know every homeowner on this street. He's renting, probably using someone else's name." "Ma'am," one of the officers cut in, "we've confirmed the registration matches a federal DOJ property log." She froze. "What?" "It's government property, registered to a federal prosecutor based in DC." Linda's face went pale. For the first time, she was silent. "Do you know a Margaret Ellis?" the officer asked. Linda blinked. No, she's the owner and the sister of the resident here. He turned to me. Sorry for the trouble, sir. I nodded. No problem. Happens. As they left, Linda just stood there. Binder clenched in one hand, HOA lanyard twisted in the other. That was the first time I saw real fear in her eyes, but it wouldn't be the last. I didn't say a word to her after that. She stood on the sidewalk for a full minute, eyes darting between the departing cruisers and the car like she was trying to solve a riddle with missing pieces. Then she turned and walked away, stiff, robotic, back to her brick house with the white shutters and plastic roses in the front yard. But the neighborhood had already shifted. By that afternoon, two neighbors stopped by, quietly, casually. First was Mr. Kramer from 2 doors down. Retired mailman, usually nodded, never spoke. He showed up with a Tupperware container of banana bread. Figured you could use something sweet, he said. I thanked him. We didn't mention the rolls. Then came Sasha, the high school art teacher across the cul-de-sac. She wore headphones and always jogged in neon. That day she came without them. Hey, she said, standing at the bottom of my steps. Just wanted to say sorry about earlier. Linda's a lot. It's fine, I said. She shook her head. It's not. I watched her walk away, ponytail bouncing with every step. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something like alliance forming under the surface. But not everyone was on my side. The next morning, a new notice appeared on my front door. Non-compliant vehicle storage. See HOA Regulation 4.1.4, prohibited use of driveway for inactive or unregistered vehicles. Fine pending. Linda's signature at the bottom in loopy cursive. She couldn't let it go. I took a picture of the notice, then of the car's license plate, then of my sister's official registration documents, emailed from her office in D.C. I sent all three to the HOA's general board email with a polite message. Vehicle is registered, legal, and temporary. No violation occurred. Please advise on dismissal of this citation. No response. That evening, a neighbor's lawn sprinklers turned on and stayed on. They flooded the sidewalk in front of my house. Another neighbor left his trash bins half blocking my driveway, just enough to be a nuisance. Little things, petty things. I didn't react. Instead, I emailed my sister. Her reply was short. Want me to handle this? I hesitated, then typed, yeah, might be time. 2 days later, she arrived. This time, not in the Rolls. She stepped out of a standard black government SUV, wearing a dark pantsuit and carrying a flat portfolio binder. Her badge hung from a chain around her neck, tucked discreetly under her blazer. She looked like someone who didn't need to prove authority. She wore it like a second skin. Which one's Linda? She asked, nodding toward the row of houses. Yellow shutters, 3 flagpoles. She smirked. Of course it is. That afternoon, I walked with her to the community center, where the monthly HOA meeting was scheduled. Linda was there, seated at the front, clipboard ready, speaking in that clipped tone of polite control. A handful of other residents sat in folding chairs, murmuring over donuts and decaf. We walked in. My sister didn't wait for an introduction. I'm Margaret Ellis, federal prosecutor. This HOA has filed a false police report against a government-registered asset and attempted to penalize a lawful resident for legal property usage. I'd like to address the board. You could hear the shift. The silence grew teeth. Linda straightened in her seat. I don't think, Margaret cut her off, calmly. I'm not asking for permission. She opened her folder and began reading. Details, statutes, local laws, federal codes. She wasn't loud, but her voice had that courtroom clarity, sharp enough to leave bruises without raising a decibel. Linda tried to interrupt once. Just once. Margaret raised a hand. You will have your chance to respond. Right now, I'm documenting the pattern of targeted harassment and procedural abuse. Several board members stared at their shoes. Margaret laid down the final sheet, a printed email from the Department of Justice confirming the car's registration and the purpose of its presence. I expect a formal apology to be issued to my brother, she said. And I will be monitoring for further retaliatory action if there is any. Linda's lips moved, but no words came out. For the first time in that room, she wasn't the one in charge. And everyone knew it. By the time we left the community center, Linda hadn't said a single word more. No one stopped us on the way out. No one made eye contact either. Margaret didn't need applause. She never did. She just handed me the folder, squeezed my arm once, and said, "Let me know if she blinks in your direction." I stood on the sidewalk as her SUV pulled away, the taillights disappearing down Maple Drive. I don't know what I expected. Maybe a slow thawing, maybe peace. What I got was silence. Thick, deliberate silence from almost every house on the street. But silence was better than sabotage. 3 days passed. No trash bins in the driveway. No mysterious lawn flooding. The HOA notice vanished from my door without explanation or follow-up. Nobody said a word, but something had cracked. On the 4th day, I received an envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside, one sheet of HOA letterhead, printed in a font that screamed formality. After review, the HOA board has decided to rescind citation 4917 due to insufficient cause. We apologize for the inconvenience. At the bottom, 3 typed names. Linda's wasn't one of them, but her silence wouldn't last. A week later, Sasha, the jogger, knocked on my door holding a printout. Check this out. It was a Facebook thread from the neighborhood group. Not public, but someone had screenshotted it for her. The post: "Does anyone know why the HOA president is being investigated? Asking because her name came up in a legal complaint last week." Sounds serious. The comments were a mess. Half speculation, half subtle gloating. Linda hadn't shown up to the HOA barbecue that weekend. She hadn't updated the newsletter. She hadn't filed a single complaint in 10 days. For Linda, that was a disappearance. Then one night, she knocked on my door. It was almost 9 p.m. Dark, quiet. I opened it, and there she was. No clipboard, no lanyard, just her and the thick tension of someone who hated being there. I wanted to say, she paused, lips pressed thin. "I may have misunderstood your situation." I said nothing. "I've stepped back from my duties, temporarily. I think it's best for the board, for everyone." Still nothing from me. She shifted her weight. "I hope you'll enjoy the neighborhood." I nodded once, closed the door, and locked it. That night, I slept with the windows open. It rained lightly, soft, steady. And for the first time since moving in, I didn't wake up to suspicion pressing against the glass. 2 weeks later, the Rolls was gone. My sister had finished her work in D.C. and arranged for it to be returned. I stood in the driveway after the flatbed rolled away, staring at the empty space. The house looked less flashy now, less noticed, but I didn't mind. That same day, I sold my old Hyundai. Not out of spite, not out of ego. I just wanted something new, something mine. Picked up a used Jeep Grand Cherokee. Black, clean, nothing fancy, but solid. I parked it in the same spot, watched as a couple of neighbors passed by and gave small nods. Linda never looked up from her garden again. By the end of the month, the HOA held an emergency vote. Linda officially resigned. Word was someone on the board had reported her for overreach and misuse of authority. Rumors said the DOJ complaint never went away. No one confirmed it. No one denied it. But people started waving more. Started asking about my sister. Started using my name. I wasn't the new guy anymore. And I wasn't invisible. The rhythm of the neighborhood changed. It wasn't dramatic. No fireworks, no town square apologies. Just small shifts that only someone who's been watching quietly would notice. The kid who used to toss his basketball onto my lawn stopped doing it. The couple with the Labrador, the ones who once avoided eye contact, waved every morning on their walk. And Mr. Kramer, the banana bread guy, started showing up every other week with some variation of baked goods and no explanation. People didn't mention Linda anymore. But her house told the story for her. The flagpoles were bare. The porch light that once blazed all night was now off by 10. The hedge she trimmed obsessively started to grow wild. She still walked to the mailbox at exactly 8:15 a.m., still wore the same pastel sweaters, but her posture had changed, not broken, just folded. I never wanted revenge. I just wanted to be left alone. But it's strange how justice changes things, not just for the target, for everyone watching. Because suddenly the rules weren't tools for intimidation. They were guidelines, suggestions. The HOA newsletters became friendlier. The fines slowed. People started talking at meetings instead of listening in fear. A month later, Sasha invited me to a block dinner. Informal, no HOA banners, just long folding tables and home-cooked food under the sunset. I brought cornbread, sat beside a guy named Rick who used to glare at me when I parked too close to the curb. That night, he offered me a cold beer and asked about the new Jeep. "This one yours?" he said, raising a brow. "All mine," I nodded. "Solid choice. None of that fancy crap." I laughed. "Yeah, it's just a car." He nodded, sipped his drink. Funny how something so simple can cause so much trouble. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. At the far end of the table, someone mentioned new elections for the HOA board. A few names floated, Sasha's among them. Someone joked about adding a rule to ban luxury cars just to see what would happen. We all laughed when the dinner wound down and the folding chairs scraped back over the sidewalk. I lingered, watched the kids chase each other between lawn chairs, watched the string lights sway in the evening breeze. It wasn't perfect. This street had its share of silence and shadow, but tonight it felt like mine. As I walked home, I passed Linda's house. She was sitting on the porch, alone. No binder, no clipboard, just her and a plastic watering can beside a dry flower bed. She didn't look up. I didn't stop. Some battles don't need a final blow. Some victories are quiet. I unlocked my door, stepped inside, and exhaled. No sirens, no notes under the door. No one watching me from behind the curtains. Just peace. And it was enough. A week later, the neighborhood held its first HOA meeting without Linda in almost a decade. It was casual. Fewer speeches, more discussion. No one wore badges. Sasha brought a pot of chili, and Rick showed up with a cooler of sodas. The folding tables looked more like a picnic than a board meeting, and that was the point. They asked me to speak, not officially, just a few words. Sasha nudged me when the room got quiet. I stood slowly, uncertain at first. I'd never planned to be part of anything here. I'd bought the house for peace, not politics. But now I looked around and saw familiar faces, real ones, tired but honest. "I'm not big on speeches," I said, clearing my throat. "But when I moved in, I figured I'd keep to myself. Head down, mow the lawn, pay the dues, stay invisible. Figured that's how you survive a place like this." There were a few chuckles. But that only works when the rules apply to everyone equally. And for a while, they didn't. I didn't push back because I wanted drama. I pushed back because sometimes you have to, or nothing changes. A silence settled. Then Rick raised his plastic cup. "To rules that don't suck." Everyone laughed. Later that night, after the tables were folded and the leftovers packed up, Sasha walked with me back toward our side of the street. "You ever think about running?" she asked. "For what?" "For the board. You've got the calm thing going. People listen when you talk." I shook my head. "I think I've made enough noise for 1 year." She smiled. "Well, keep showing up. That's more than most people do." I watched her turn down her walkway, then stood on mine for a moment. The porch light was warm. The Jeep sat quietly in the driveway, dusted from pollen but steady. My lawn needed a trim. The neighborhood was quiet. No sirens, no accusations, no clipped smiles behind fake hospitality. Just a man, a house, and a street that finally felt like home. And that was more than enough.